Hi, my name is Roxanne and I'm a physical therapist with PT Health Academy. Today I want to share some tips with you on how to pick a good functional shoe. What do I mean by a functional shoe? A functional shoe helps you with the activities that you do in it. For example, if you hike and you wear a hiking boot, that hiking boot gives your foot and ankle support so you can tolerate the uneven terrain of hiking. Contrast that with a fashion shoe. Fashion shoes look good, but don't really help you with function. In fact, many foot, ankle, and knee problems are caused by spending too much time trying to function in a fashion shoe. I'm going to say that again. Foot, ankle, and knee problems are often caused by spending too much time functioning in a fashion shoe. Can you identify your fashion shoes? It's usually pretty obvious. If you have foot or ankle problems, you may want to adjust your time in your fashion shoe and spend more time in a functional shoe to relieve your symptoms. Now, how do you pick a good functional shoe? First, it's helpful to understand what type of foot you have. Now, you can have a floppy foot or a rigid foot or fall somewhere in between. A floppy foot is one that has lots of range of motion. I have tons of range of motion. And has a really flexible arch. So I can lift and lower my arch with ease, and I have a lot of motion doing that. Contrast that with a rigid foot. Rigid feet tend to not have a lot of motion in them, and they have a really hard time lifting and lowering their arch. In fact, sometimes they're stuck either with a really high arch or stuck with a really flat arch, and that's a more rigid foot type. You may fall somewhere in between, and that's okay too, but it's helpful to understand, are you at one end or the other end of that spectrum? Now, when you go to pick out a shoe, a floppy foot is going to benefit from a more rigid shoe. So when my floppy foot wears this good stiff shoe, I can rein in some of that extra motion in my foot and really take some stress and strain off the muscles and joints in my foot. And then a rigid foot is going to benefit from more of a cushioned shoe. Rigid feet tend to have trouble with like shock absorption and motion. So this cushioned shoe is going to help absorb shock and create maybe a little extra motion for that rigid foot to function. How can you determine which shoes are rigid and which ones are cushioned in the store? Sometimes it says it right on the box. It'll say stability shoe or cushioned shoe, and that's helpful. But there are a few tests you can do. When I check my shoes, I grab the ends and push. And this shoe does not compress very much at all. And then the other thing you can do is grab the ends and try to twist the shoe. And again, it takes a lot of force for me to try to deform this shoe. So this is a good, rigid, stiff shoe. This is the other end of the spectrum. When I push from end to end on this shoe, it collapses quite easily. And if I try to twist it, it's really very flexible. So this is more of a cushioned shoe. Now, if you fall somewhere in between with a floppy foot or a rigid foot, there are shoes the same way that kind of fall between those two extremes. And so it may take some trial and error to figure out which shoe is best for your type of foot. But hopefully this gives you at least a place to start. If you need more help with that, please reach out to me. I would be happy to assist you. Thank you so much for listening.